They mocked her stutter, called her names behind her back, and dumped soda in her locker every week. To them, Emily was just the weird, quiet girl who wore thrift store jeans and sat alone. But at exactly 8:02 a.m. on a cold Friday, everything changed. A black limo door opened in front of the school, and when Emily stepped out, dressed like a runway star with a powerful man behind her, no one laughed. What followed silenced the entire school and exposed every last secret they tried to bury. Let's begin. Emily Walsh had learned how to disappear. Not through magic, through survival. Every hallway at Madison High felt like a battlefield. When she walked past, whispers floated behind her like shadows. Here comes thrift store Emily. She smells like a basement. Bet her mom still packs her lunch. She never responded, never raised her eyes, just clutched her books tighter and told herself, it's almost over. Just make it to graduation. But even graduation felt miles away when every day started the same. A kicked locker, a stolen notebook, a juice box exploded across her thrifted backpack. Emily didn't have friends. Not because she didn't want them, but because the fear of being humiliated again had taught her to isolate. She used to talk in class until a video of her stuttering during a presentation went viral around campus. Now she only spoke when called on, and even then her voice shook. Home wasn't much better. Her mom, Carla, worked double shifts as a waitress and came home too exhausted to notice Emily's pain. Her dad, gone since she was 6. But that Thursday night something changed, something massive. Emily was walking home in the rain after tutoring, a third grader for $10. Her old sneakers soaked, her stomach aching from skipping lunch. At the edge of Willow Street she saw a man on the ground, slumped against a brick wall, pale and barely conscious. Without hesitating, she dropped her bag and called 911. "Sir? Hey, can you hear me?" she asked, kneeling beside him, her voice trembling. The man's lips were cracked. Water. She didn't have any, but she sprinted to the gas station across the street and bought a bottle with her last $2.68. By the time the ambulance arrived, she'd stayed by his side in the rain, soaked through and shivering. The paramedics rushed him away. She never even got his name. Emily thought that was the end of it. She had no idea that man was billionaire software tycoon Benjamin Hartley, and he would not forget the girl who saved his life. The next morning started like any other. Emily wore the same black hoodie she always wore, oversized, faded with one torn sleeve. Her sneakers squished with each step. Her hair was tied up in a loose, messy ponytail, and she hadn't had time to eat. When she stepped onto campus, the laughter started early. "Hey, Emily, you forget your comb again? Did Goodwill have a clearance sale, or did your grandma or die and leave you her closet?" She said nothing, but something felt off. The school was buzzing, and not just with the usual cruelty. A few students near the parking lot were already filming something on their phones, faces turned toward the street. Then brakes screeched, heads turned. A black limousine, polished like a mirror, rolled up to the front gate of Madison High. Limos didn't come here. This was a public school in a town where the biggest celebrity was the guy who once ate 50 hot wings on local TV. But this limo didn't idle. The driver stepped out and opened the door. Gasps echoed. A slender foot, clad in a glossy stiletto, touched the pavement. Then another, and out stepped Emily Walsh. Not hoodie-wearing, head-down Emily. This Emily wore a tailored white blouse tucked into elegant black slacks, her hair styled into soft waves, her lashes curled, and her eyes no longer hidden behind round glasses. Behind her stood Benjamin Hartley in a grey suit, looking like someone who walked off the cover of Forbes. Silence drowned the courtyard. Emily strode, past the very people who had once dumped milk cartons in her bag. She didn't look at them. Didn't have to. Her presence shattered their entire hierarchy. By the time she reached the office, half the school was watching from behind windows. Inside the principal's room, Mr. Dawson blinked up at her. Can I help you?" Benjamin stepped forward, handing over a letter sealed in gold foil. "We're donating $2 million to rebuild your school's outdated tech labs," he said coolly. "On one condition," Mr. Dawson swallowed. "Condition? That you stop ignoring the bullying happening in these halls and issue a formal apology to Emily Walsh today." Emily didn't flinch. She didn't even blink, but inside her chest was pounding. It wasn't just about the bullies. It was about finally being seen. The entire school felt it, and for once, they were the ones afraid to speak. The PA system crackled to life during second period. No one paid much attention at first. Announcements usually meant a fire drill or a reminder about cafeteria rules. But then Principal Dawson's voice came through, shaky and strange. This is an important message. I want to offer a formal apology to Emily Walsh, a student who has endured mistreatment within these walls. We, staff and students alike, have failed to uphold the values of respect and decency. That changes now. Anyone caught harassing or bullying another student will face suspension immediately. Every head turned, eyes flicked across classrooms. Even the worst bullies, like Ashlyn Matthews and Brett King, looked like someone had punched the wind out of their lungs. Emily? She was sitting in the back of her English class when it happened. And she didn't cry. Didn't smile either. She simply breathed. For the first time in years, it didn't hurt to inhale. After the bell rang, she returned to her locker cautiously. Her past experience taught her to be prepared for another trap. Rotten food, notes with slurs, graffiti. But today, her locker was clean. There was only a single envelope taped to the inside, handwritten in careful print. "I saw what you did. The night you helped that man. I never spoke up before because I was scared they'd turn on me too. But I'm sorry, Emily. You didn't deserve what they did. None of it." She stood there, holding the letter, heart shaking. For years, Emily believed no one noticed her, that she existed only to be stepped over. But here was proof. Someone had seen her kindness, her courage, and now the whole school was starting to see it too. That afternoon when Benjamin picked her up again in the limo, the same people who laughed at her now froze like statues. Even Ashlyn Matthews, queen of gossip and cruelty, muttered under her breath, "Is she like dating him or something?" But Emily didn't respond, because it wasn't about status. It was about rising without needing revenge, about becoming untouchable, not through money, but through dignity. And something inside her, something long buried, was starting to wake up. Confidence. The cafeteria had never been a safe place for Emily. It was a stage of public humiliation, where seating charts were defined by social currency, and girls like her sat in corners, counting minutes until it ended. But on Monday, when Emily walked in holding a bottle of sparkling water and a homemade turkey sandwich, yes, her mom had still packed her lunch, every single table went silent. She wasn't even wearing makeup. Just a pale pink cardigan, crisp, jeans, and a quiet confidence that unsettled everyone more than if she'd arrived in a full designer outfit. She took a seat at an empty table near the windows. Normally, the cafeteria hierarchy wouldn't allow that. That table? That was Ashlyn Matthews' table. But today no one dared say a word until Ashlyn walked in, tall, blonde, commanding, and absolutely fuming. She strutted up to the table with her usual entourage of cheerleaders, her voice pitched, loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Oh, look who thinks she's the queen of the lunchroom now. Little Emily from the thrift store thinks a limo makes her special." Emily didn't look up. Ashlyn stepped closer. "You think everyone forgot who you are? You'll always be that stuttering, pathetic—" Ashlyn. The voice didn't belong to Emily. It came from behind them, from a student no one expected to speak up. Derek Holmes, the quarterback. The guy who once tripped Emily in the hallway for laughs. Now he stood tall, looking directly at Ashlyn with a clenched jaw. "That's enough," he said. "We all saw what she did. She saved someone's life. What have you ever done besides? Make people hate themselves." Gasps echoed across the room. Ashlyn's face flushed red. She laughed bitterly. "So what? She did one good thing and now she's Mother Teresa. You're all seriously buying into this charity case princess fantasy?" Another voice chimed in. "Emily helped my sister with math tutoring for free," said Jenna Collins, a sophomore. "She stayed an hour after school every day, even when we didn't have money to pay her." Then another, "She brought food to my mom's shelter over winter break." More murmurs, more confessions. Emily's acts of kindness, things she never told anyone about, were coming to light, one by one. Ashlyn's grip on her social throne cracked, her face contorting between shock and fury. She turned back to Emily. "You really think you're better than us now?" Emily finally raised her eyes. "No, I think I always was. I just stopped apologizing for it." She stood up, and the room broke out in slow applause. Not mocking, genuine. Ashlyn stormed out of the cafeteria, mascara streaking her cheeks. Emily sat back down, her heart thudding, not from fear, but from something unfamiliar. Peace. 2 weeks later, the school held its annual assembly, normally a bland event packed with honor rolls, trophies, and uninspired speeches from the faculty. But this time, the gym was buzzing. Everyone knew something was coming. Rumors had swirled all week. Something about a special guest. Something about a presentation that would change the school. Emily sat in the third row, surrounded by students who once pretended she didn't exist. She'd been invited to sit on stage, but she declined. She didn't want to be above anyone. She just wanted to be. Principal Dawson stepped onto the podium. "Before we begin," he said nervously, "I'd like to welcome a man who most of you now recognize. Mr. Benjamin Hartley." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Benjamin stepped forward, a calm but firm presence in a sea of restless teenagers. He smiled gently, then turned toward the rows of students. "You don't know me personally," he said. "But 2 weeks ago I collapsed on a street corner, in the cold, in the rain, and none of the dozens who walked past me stopped to help." He paused, eyes locked on Emily, except her. Students turned to stare at Emily, whose face flushed with heat, but who didn't look away. "She gave me her last dollar for water. Sat with me until help arrived. She never asked for anything. That's why today I'm here to make sure her story and people like her aren't forgotten." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a letter. "This," he continued, "is from my sister. She died 5 years ago of leukemia. Before she passed, she wrote a letter for a girl she never met, someone she hoped would exist, someone kind, brave, strong. I didn't understand the letter until I met Emily. The gym was so quiet, you could hear the buzz of the overhead lights." He handed the letter to Emily. She opened it with trembling hands and began to read aloud, her voice cracking. "To the girl who chooses kindness in a world that rewards cruelty. Don't change, don't harden. The world needs people like you. One day you'll shine in ways they never saw coming." Tears blurred her vision. The paper shook in her hand. And then the crowd stood, one by one, a standing ovation. Not because she was popular, not because she was rich, but because she never stopped being good. After the assembly, Ashlyn approached her. No followers, no mascara, just red-rimmed eyes and a shaking voice. "I was awful to you," she said, barely audible. "And I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm sorry." Emily looked at her for a long moment, then extended her hand. "Then prove you mean it." Ashlyn took it. The months that followed changed everything. Emily was offered a scholarship, not just by the school, but by Benjamin Hartley's private foundation. She became a mentor to younger students, started a kindness club, helped others like she'd once needed someone to help her, but she never wore the crown, never ruled the school like the new queen. She simply showed up, listened, helped, smiled. And in doing so, she built something bigger than popularity. She built respect, from the girl mocked for being quiet to the one who brought a school to silence just by walking in. Emily Walsh didn't need revenge. She had something better. She had her voice, and this time, the whole world listened.